Hello, this is Bob, and this is Lala. And the invisible person you see is our magical friend, Alan Greenfield. Alan is having really bad technical difficulties. He was trying to do something to get it to work, and we'll hang out here for a bit. And if it doesn't work, well, you can just stare at us trying to figure out something to do. We twiddle our thumbs, maybe juggle my phone, or talk to each other or whatever. Answer questions. We'll do whatever we need to do to kind of get going here, and we will reschedule Alan if he can't get it going. Because I don't know if many of you have seen Alan before on an interview show, but he does really well. He's funny. He's entertaining. He's a conversationalist, and he really keeps it going. And up against the wall, you redneck mother who raised her son so well. Was that what you had in mind, Marty? I don't think it was. That's Jerry Jeff Walker of really crazy country music fame. He was always drunk on stage.
Yeah.
Yeehaw! Anyway, so I personally, she's been doing other shows with other people and doing art things with her face painting and other things, and I have just been completely consumed by all of these whistleblowers on X Twitter. What can I say? It's been wild, just wild. I'm thinking about going to the meeting at the National Press Club in May. It depends on the way you get in. So I'll figure it out because I haven't seen an announcement, but I also have a feeling it's going to be packed and it's going to be by invitation only. So we'll see. We'll just see. What have you been up to?
Ghosts and aliens.
Okay, what
Not
kind?
really ghosts. I've been in the house.
My goodness!
We had a ghost. It opened the door, so I went to go look, and it was in the laundry room. And when I went in, the door behind me slammed shut.
Did it hit you? And
no,
but it came close.
But I almost shit myself. Sorry. But that was fun. All kinds of other stuff.
Oh, that's great, Kat. I'm glad you got sent an invitation. I didn't even know how to ask for one, so I don't know. We'll figure it out. I have been to things there before dealing with UFOs, paradigm, etc. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
What's it about?
This is big time dealings with the Paradigm Institute and UFO disclosure. And there's Alan. Let's see what we can do.
Me now, right?
Yes!
I'm on my fucking phone.
Hey, we're on the air. We're on the air. Who cares? We don't give a friggin'. We don't give a frack.
Well, this is ridiculous. I can't do this on my phone. I'm an internet influencer, whatever the fuck that is.
Well, we could.
I am going to restart my. Have you got 5 minutes for me to?
Yeah, do take your time. This is I'm singing redneck songs to everybody for waiting on you. Waiting on you.
I am a redneck. I'm not in jail for once. I'm driving my truck with this girl I picked up. I'm a redneck for sure.
I sang Jerry Jeff Walker Up Against the Wall, You Redneck Mother.
I thought I was doing Hank Williams Jr., but it's okay. I think I need to restart my computer because it's doing a lot of wonky things. But in the meantime, if all else fails, I'll go sit on my couch. Oh, I got to talk low because that knock on the door was my neighbor saying, I never heard you. I thought you were calling for help. I said, no, I'm just trying to talk to people 300 miles away. And I had to,
and giving your computer a vocal tongue lashing.
well, I told her what I was doing, but that's here. Let me, come on. And there's the paradox. I'm gonna have to put this down. Oh, if I use this angle, I look really fat.
Oh,
How's
yeah.
that?
So if I put you in the background, will you work on your computer?
And I have hair. See?
You
I
do.
have lots of hair.
But I do not.
Lots of hair. And I have some teeth.
Yes, I have some.
Ears somewhere there. And of course, being Jewish.
It's true. Happy Passover, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did a Seder last night. I have to buy, you're supposed to have, among other things, one egg. I don't eat eggs, but the egg sits on the Seder plate to remind you of something.
Did you put
Apparently, I don't remember what the
red ribbon over the door?
So I gave the same neighbor who just knocked on the door. I said, could you use 11 eggs? To explain, I don't eat eggs, but so I don't want them to go to waste. And she said, how old are they? I said, 10 this morning.
All right, knock on the door when you get ready.
Knock on the door.
Yeah, in other words,
I'm in Georgia. That would be.
Wave your hand. I'll see you downstairs. All right, let's see.
Marty.
Lala, what you say to folks who say there is no connections between ghosts and ET phenomena?
You know, I when I was younger, I didn't think there was a connection either. But now I just say really simple that they're from the same source. They're energetically very similar. They travel very similar portals. There's more of a connection than a lot of people realize. They're just different types of beings, entities. That's all. I just say it really simple. It's hard to explain, but they really are much more connected than I ever knew.
Then I think from all of the stories you read, if non-human entities want to go through walls or come through the roof or whatever, they do some kind of excitation because they're on a different frequency from us or our spirits. It sounds like. So, and what this means to me is quantum mechanics and a thing part of it called the Pauli exclusion principle is what makes the chair I'm sitting on hard enough for me to sit on it and not fall through the earth, because the atoms in it are nearly 100% nothing, 100% vacuum. And it's the Pauli exclusion principle that makes things solid. So if they could change their frequency that was inconsistent with earth material, we would go right through it. And so I think that's how they get through walls and stuff like that. Let's see. Marty's not a redneck, but he speaks and understands redneck. That takes talent. Are you ready, Alan? Shake your head.
Okay. On my phone.
Oh, there you go. That works.
Well, my computer is restarting. If I get on there, I will leave this and go to the computer. And I better tell Flo or I'm in.
We can add all of them. It's not a big deal.
You know, Razer, where my headset comes from, just did an update. So I'm thinking maybe that was the cause. But
yes.
I'll restart the computer, and if that doesn't work, you'll just have to deal with my postage stamp image.
There you go. Your postage stamp image is not bad, but go ahead and try to fix it so you'll feel better.
It just will make me look like Jesus, you know, on his postage stamp. Oh, I don't think he's got a postage stamp. Something about First Amendment.
There you go. Okay, so I recently found Secrets of the Real Black Lodge revealed, And so I think that book needs some, for people in our audience, it needs some introduction to your past practices or your in magic and other things, so they understand why you and Olaf and everybody were involved in that book. So I just think it would be really good to tell us something about your life, which is quite extraordinary, and the reason for writing that book.
Should I say that now? Or?
Yes, please. Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
We're on the air.
Born on the morning when the sun didn't shine. Picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine. I loaded 16 tons of number 94. And the straw boss said, well, bless my soul.
There you go.
Actually, I should say that I've been involved directly longer than anybody in your audience has been alive, at least in this incarnation. I got involved in the early 1960s. Is that a question that I'm supposed to answer?
No, it's just people commenting.
Oh,
They're telling you you're beautiful on your phone.
Oh, well, for a hot date, I'm available. But anyway, so I got involved in all of these things at the same time, which was when I was but a pubescent boy in high school, as did a lot of my contemporaries, Gene Steinberg, Rick Hilberg, etc. And we got involved, all of us, at the tail end, really the tail end of the first generation ufologist movement. So we were lucky enough to be able to have met and even got to be friends with a lot of the first gen ufologists, pretty much all of whom are gone now, unfortunately. They're all in that great saucer in the sky. So, or the comic Kohoutek for people who.
Yes. They might be flying behind Kohoutek for real.
No, they would. You should hear what they had to say about Bo and Pete.
Whatever that was, I just know I will never forget the pictures of all the people laying on their bunk beds with the cloth over themselves, thinking they had gone to a comic.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really, really would like people to be aware of. There are a lot of cults in and around ufology. And if you start down that garden path, it's not going to seem like a cult because cults have a come on. When Bo and Peep started out, as they call themselves, I remember somebody commenting who was following them around the country, gathering their doomsday cult. Well, I'll try this for a while. I've tried other things. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just go to something else. So that was like early 1970s, if I remember correctly. Talk so I can restart my computer now. Oh, what a beautiful scene. Isn't that pretty?
That's lovely.
Yeah. This is going to be a long process. So I wonder if I can type and talk at the same time.
I can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, so you might be better than me.
Well, I loaded 16 tons. So. Anyway, so at the time I got involved in ufology, it was a stellar time because you could still meet the people that are now the historical ufologists, Kehoe and Adamski and
John Keel,
Mosley and Gray Barker.
Yes, and John Keel.
Keel was a latecomer. Actually, the teen ufologists, as we called ourselves, had been in it for about 5-6 years, and I get this call from long distance when long distance was a very expensive proposition. So I get a call late at night, which I often did, from Jim Mosley, and we talked for hours. And since both he and my dad were relatively wealthy people, at least back then, we were able to talk long distance for long hours, way into the night. And we talked about everything related to ufology and philosophy and everything else. But he started talking about, I guess it was around 1966, he started talking about this guy he had met. And he said, Alan, you really, really got to meet this guy. Really, really, really.
You really better.
And I said, well, who is he? Because by then I was already beginning to be jaded about the really, really, you must meet them people, because
Right.
frankly, most of them, it would have been better not to. But for me anyway. So I said, who is this? He said, it's John Keel. He wrote a book called Jadoo, and he's writing a book about Batman, which was when the Batman silly series was on TV. It was a major fad in the 60s for those who are chronologically impaired, or I don't know what to call it. So I said, oh, well, that was not really, particularly a recommendation. But as it happened, I had read Jadoo, and it's sort of like the magazines he wrote for, the men's magazines of the early 60s, not the strip club magazines, but more like True and Argosy and that genre of adventure stories, so to speak. Now, anyway, so I said, okay, I'll be up there the end of December, because every year I went to New York, got a nice room overlooking Times Square. Have I told you this story before?
Yep, you have.
Okay. But every word was rehearsed. So that year, Jim Mosley, who was, well worth meeting himself, brought John Keel with him to our party. And if I remember right, Gene Steinberg and Tim Beckley were there, and several other luminaries of the period. And I immediately thought, they're a really weird guy. But when he opened his mouth to talk, he was mesmerizing. And I thought, A, this guy knows his stuff. B, I hope he comes out with a book on this instead of just Batman. And C, I need to con my daddy into inviting him down to Atlanta to give a talk. So I was very, very impressed. As time went on, I realized there was a wrestling match between John Keel, the adventurer / men's magazine author, and John Keel, the really, really weird guy. Not creepy. I met a lot of creepy people too. And I won't mention, Ivan Sanderson or anybody that was really creepy, but the Amazing Randy, nice enough guy, but creepy beyond words.
I would suspect you and the Amazing Randy might have had a word or two about his skepticism.
He wasn't skeptical about UFOs in those days.
Oh, really?
Everything else, he wasn't. But at the 1967 Giant Saucer Show, as Jim Mosley's $12,1967 convention would have it. And it was. I mean, there were like 3,000 people there, which was unheard of in ufology in those days. And all the first gen ufologists and contactees, everybody was there. The love candidate for president was there. So whatever that means, I mean, I'm not sure, but it was quite something. Dr. Condon
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
right.
was there.
Colorado, the Colorado study.
But before I went up early as Jim had requested and did some publicity. So he said, do you want to do a long program on WOR? And being the media whore that I am, I said, sure. So I thought it was going to be the Long John show, but Long John Nebel, who really probably created ufology, though he didn't believe any of it, as he often said, he had moved to WNBC in New York, which was the flagship station of the NBC network, local, but he had been at WOR radio, which the three initials tells you is a really, really old station. And in those days, I think it was a clear channel AM station because I would be able to tune into it from Atlanta. But since I was there, I said, well, who's hosting the show? He said, The Amazing Randy. I said, that should be interesting. So for 3 hours, he interviewed, let's see, Dan Cohen from, I think he was with Science Digest in those days, and Joan Reitner, who was the new Atlantean person from St. Petersburg, Florida, not the other St. Petersburg, because shout out to St. Petersburg in Russia. I know you're listening. You always are. And what I have to say to you will be said off air. And me and Randy. And Randy was a great host. In fact, I heard from Beckley that program was replayed long after the convention repeatedly on WR. So it must have been a popular show. And with that particular group of people, all of whom except me are dead, by the way. I noticed I was looking at a photo that was taken. I don't know who took the photo because it wasn't one of the participants. But Joan has gone on. Dan, I think, just recently passed on. Randy, unless he's pulling one of his escape artist tricks, is dead, much to the happiness of people that don't like professional skeptics, which he is. I mean, he even turned on the UFOs. He even turned on Jim Moseley because he was so afraid of there being anything outside of the, what would you call it? The established view that has a floor under it. That
Well,
is,
he was, in my opinion, given the people who were involved and the things I read and know, he was definitely involved in, let's say, the research at SRI, and he falsified the negative evidence. He got it and tampered with it. And so it was clear to me from that and other remarks that he had some kind of emotional impediment to believing in all this stuff.
I will tell you personally that from not just my own impressions, but talking to Jim Moseley about him, they were pretty tight friends back in the day. Jim told me an anecdote. I don't think I've ever told this story before about he was having a conversation with Randy. This is late 60s, early 70s, about, I don't remember the specifics, but it was sort of about some UFO related, but non-ordinary. That is some specific that, like anti-gravity, for example. I'm just picking that out of the air, but something that would not fit with the current paradigm. And Randy said to Jim, Well, that would violate the third law of motion, or I'm skewing it because I don't remember what their specific conversation was, and I wasn't present, so I got it secondhand. But Jim said to me in his inimitable satirical way, it wouldn't bother me if it violated the third law of motion or the second or the first. But apparently Randy, cleaves to these things like fundamentalists cleave to the exact words of Scripture.
Even though they're contradictory.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a true believer in whatever you're a true believer in, anything from Nazism and communism to science. If it doesn't fit, you get away from it as fast as you can. And Randy and a bunch of other people, not a bunch, actually a rather small group of people, a few of them credentialed. Randy, as far as I know, was not credentialed in any way. But they were true anti-believers. And whether they were, on the payroll of the DARPA or something is irrelevant, because, it would be relevant to a discussion about why would the government be interested in suppressing evidence, to which I think I know the answer. But with people like that, they were more than willing to do it, funded or not funded. That would include a few people who are still living. Actually, that group of uber materialist fanatics just lost one of their key people, Daniel Dennett.
Oh, yeah. He was interviewed last week by one of my favorite podcast guys, a guy named Brian out of University of California, who came this close to winning the Nobel Prize. And he was in the interview, and man, he had melanomas all over the top of his head. And I went, I'm not surprised that the poor guy passed away in a week or so after. He looked really bad, Alan.
Oh, I don't doubt that. He was like that other Englishman, the God Delusion, Dawkins. Like Dawkins, who is
Richard
still
Dawkins,
yeah. He was an absolute gentleman in the British fine tradition of absolute gentleman, but his views were caca. It's like I had followed Dawkins for years, and things like his book on, I think it was called The Selfish Gene. I was with him all the way on these things. As long as he stuck to biology, that was his field, and he was worth hearing. Not that a degree in biology doesn't necessarily mean that you're always right. It may not mean you're ever right. Mendel cheated, apparently, according to many sources. But Dawkins was right on the money about things like the selfish gene. Then he did the God Delusion, which caused much angst. And I thought, people should really stick to their own lane, But knowing something about biology, and evolutionary biology at that, and knowing something about cosmology and theology, which are the things that would be involved in the God delusion or not delusion, you really should be somewhat circumspect in what you have to say on the subject. Leave that to the unaffiliated non-specialists like me, and I'll set you straight. But he was totally wrong there, and there've been, I think Rupert Sheldrake wrote
Rupert Sheldrake could chew him up and spit him out.
Well, they actually debated. I mean, there's one that I would recommend. I don't know. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I do recommend people go look at Sheldrake and Dawkins because Sheldrake did a great job.
Sheldrake doesn't have an agenda really. He has knowledge, but not an agenda.
Yep.
And science and agenda really don't go together.
No, science is, I mean, even if you have a theory, it's a temporary occupant you're using to explain some things till you see the first mistake and you go have to figure out how to fix it.
Which is my approach to everything. I mean, if you ask me what I believe about anything, I say, well, I'm not into the notion of belief. I do have certain allegiances, and I have the inclination to support certain theories subject to new information, but always subject to new information.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the great Reformation scientists, they were all open-minded people who just kept working at things when things they thought were true didn't work. And that's how we got the scientific revolution. But now we've got these materialist preachers that are really rough in some places. Like there's a famous physicist who says the universe was made from nothing by no one at the Big Bang. And it's just so pretentious. You don't really know how to deal with them except laugh at them.
It's very frustrating because clearly I'm trying to do two things at once, and I've always been a single tasker. The other thing that I'm doing is trying to bring you up on my real computer here, as opposed to my teeny tiny telephone. Alien signal or not, that's the news. I would say not, but that's just me, Okay. Why don't you talk for a minute so I can fiddle with it, and I'll give up on it and go sit on my couch and talk to you. I could go sit in my bed and talk to you on my laptop, but given my reputation, I think that would probably create the wrong impression. So
I'm pretty much now at the point, now that I've reached 70 and retired, that other people thinking about some kind of things, or they don't bother me or interest me. Did you ever meet Peter Levenda?
I don't think so, but I'm bad on names. I know the name, but I can't attach a face to it.
Yeah, I just wondered if he's written many books, all on the occult and UFOs and the anomalous. He's a very good writer. I just thought maybe you'd met him.
No, I think I've read some of his stuff, but if I've met him, it would have been at a convention, and believe me, unless they, pick me up and shake me and say, "You so-and-so son of a bitch, I'm going to take you out to the woodshed," I will remember them in that case. But otherwise...
Okay, how did you meet our mutual acquaintance, John E.L. Tenney?
John who?
Tenney. How did you meet Tenney?
Did I?
Yeah. Yeah, you met John Tenney.
Oh, well, yeah. I keep hearing Denny because there's only a little tiny speaker on this thing.
Yeah, so I met Tenney.
Oh, he came to one of our conventions long, long ago. He was just a kid. I said, "Hi, welcome to the Hotel California." And that was probably before the Hotel California. But he's a great guy.
He is wicked smart.
Yes, he is. And exceptionally so. I mean, he's a bit more cynical than me, but very funny, and also right on point pretty much all the time.
Yep.
So, and we are very simpatico. And he's a great guy.
Yep.
I was John Denny. Let me see. What is a John Denny? Okay. Big moment here, folks. Live and in color. Except I'm not anywhere near this pale. But I'm going to try to sign in on my computer now. One try.
You can leave this one up while you pull the other one.
I'm going to. I'm not going to sign out. Entering the studio. I'm going to read this off. You will lose half your audience. Allow mic and cam access.
Please say yes.
It isn't giving me the pop-up. That's the weird thing. Okay, it wants my name. It says that it's on. The camera is on. But I don't have my headphones. Audience, I'm sorry. I'm technically challenged. I come from another century. I think it was the 20th, literally.
Well, you're only a single digit number of years older than me.
I'm testing the mic. Yes, it will work. I'm entering the studio.
Okay, let me remove this one and bring this one in. Let's see if I can hear you.
You can hear me.
I can hear you.
And I'm going to talk low so that I don't get evicted. Now, I'm shutting this off.
That'll be great. You can shut it off.
So here I am.
There you go. That is a much better picture graphic, and it's not, it's not shaking like the other thing is. You need a little bit more light. The lens is zooming for focus because it doesn't feel like there's enough light.
Okay, let's see. I'll go to settings. There's my virtual background. Now, camera. Well, it doesn't give you a bunch of settings. I mean,
no, it really doesn't. It wants to control it all itself.
Well, that's bullshit. Okay, let's see. Well, that's as much as I can do. Take it or leave it.
No, it's good.
Well, good night, folks. They were very nice to me, despite my.
Okay, you were in the middle of telling you kind of your evolution and how you kind of got into ufology, and then of course I'm interested in your wild ascent to way up at the top of different groups in magic. I mean, you and the group that you were the chief leader of and other things. That stuff is really interesting, John. Tell us how you got into all that.
Did you just call me John?
Sorry, Alan. I'm getting old. So yeah, sorry, Alan. Yeah, how'd you get into all of that?
Read my name.
Still me. I'll call you Still. I'll call you Still.
Yeah, I know a bunch of songs from my youth about stills, which was then a very active business up in the hills.
Yeah, my neighbor had a still.
By the way, Lon Strickler said hello.
When the man in black, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but when the man in black showed up at my door to denounce Ralph Lale, the famous contactee in, overlooking Brown Mountain in North Carolina,
mm-hmm.
He not Lale, the man in black said, this guy's a moonshiner. so you can't trust anything he says. And I went, oh, that's very interesting. And I thought, well, what the hell has that got to do with anything? I mean, every third person up in those hills is probably a moonshiner or their customer. So,
Exactly.
and how this guy even knew I was at this hotel was quite a mystery. How he found my room was a mystery. And how he didn't find Mosley's room or Beckley's room is a mystery. So it was just me. And why I didn't, get a card or something, I don't know. Don't worry, Maureen, you didn't miss anything of importance, just us fiddling around with the sound on my computer.
And having a good conversation. I hope we did a pretty decent discussion for this kind of group on scientific materialism and how it's just. And I'm a little bit tougher than that. I don't even like dualism anymore. I really don't. I just mind and body are. I think all things are consciousness, and those are just different aspects of it. So I'm beyond all that, really.
Yeah, well, I sort of think that is the case, but I'm not utterly convinced that there is no material reality because somebody slugs me, and that's happened once or twice. I feel it. And that may be a projection or it may be a glitch in the matrix or whatever, but as dualism originally was with Descartes, I think that's one of two possibilities. The thing is, there are a bunch of possibilities, including, to use the term from Edgar Allan Poe, a dream within a dream.
Exactly. So it could be all an illusion, and we're sitting around being fed whatever we're fed through this we're through this headset we call space-time.
Well, look at the way we're talking.
Right.
I mean, this is essentially electronics, computers, one must say analog computers, really. Pretty soon, that may be replaced by something that is outside of time and space,
yep.
Which would be quantum computing. And I'm not a techie, but I do have a prediction. Once you have really practical quantum computing, it's not AI that's the game changer. It's quantum computing that will be the game changer because I think, therefore I am. And I think that's true of us. We were talking about Rupert Sheldrake and these really great English luminaries like Sheldrake and Roger Penrose postulate that essentially our physical beings are the equivalent of the radio or the television, as the case may be.
Yep.
And we are not the studio, and we're not the person sitting at the mic in the studio that is the real us. That's a very intriguing notion, and I think dangerously close to the truth.
But my favorite purveyor of that notion right at the moment is Donald Hoffman.
Yeah.
Especially, and the reason, I'll give you exactly the reason, because it's bias. He proved a mathematical theorem based on game theory of evolution that we evolve not to see reality, but that which optimize our evolutionary outcome. And so we don't see reality. So not only do we not evolve to see reality, we are selected against if we have a sensory system that sees reality rather than optimizes for genetic outcomes. I mean, that is a powerful theorem. It really upset the apple cart.
I would think that the physical human race could not have evolved at all. It would have been, one of the blips in evolution if we didn't have extensive damping mechanisms in our brains. I'm not sure that the human brain, which is taken by materialists as the source of consciousness. Of course, Dennett thought we weren't conscious at all, which is a really absurd notion, in my opinion. I know why he was saying that, but it doesn't wash. And intuitively, it sucks, the big one. But I think at least a large part of our brains is devoted, our brains are devoted to suppressing what's real, lest we get distracted from finding prey and avoiding predators.
Yep.
Because most of our history, that's what we have done. Only this tiny fragment has allowed us, mostly through agriculture, I suppose, to sit down and contemplate anything. So most of our evolution is about staying laser focused on the aforementioned, mating, not getting killed in the process, and being sure to drive the woolly mammoth to extinction in a very godly way, of course.
Oh, yes. I have several Native American friends that you want to get them riled up. They're in the West. So if you want to get them riled up, just say anything that reminds them that we wiped out the buffalo.
Well, we didn't wipe them out, but we came close.
Came so close. So very close. Just for a few furs.
I think it's a very interesting thing that the same technology at an earlier phase that drove the bison to near extinction was also used to bring the bison back, not in the numbers that once were there, but near extinction, and now there are thousands, and now there are places where you could get yourself a bison burger.
Yeah. So I drove through the Dakotas and went down the interstate, and every 1,000 yards or so, there was a sign to stop at Wall Drugs. So I stopped at Wall Drugs, which is this famous, iconic place in South Dakota, and got a bison burger. So it was good. And then, of course, Ted, what's his name, owned CNN.
Turner
from CNN.
Never to disparage or forget Ted Turner, Atlanta's most successful person.
Yeah, he started CNN, and he has this massive ranch, which is full of bison.
Yeah, well, that's Ted, and this massive collection of Whoops, I shouldn't say that. Ted is a good guy.
Yeah, he is an interesting character, and he certainly changed all of us when he made cable television work by having CNN on it. He kind of made it work.
Yeah.
Because until then, they were just carrying regular TV stations.
He also bought, once he became as wealthy as he did, he bought up some of the major film rights to key films. And if you're a fan of old movies, as I am, that is, film noir and really classical stuff like that, you go to his, sound like I'm doing a commercial for Ted Turner. When he started out, when I was a kid, Turner was in the sign business. I think he inherited that from his father. So all along the interstate, there were signs for whatever, but at the bottom of it all said Turner Advertising. And there you go. But what is that station? WTBS?
WTBS, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I grew up in Alabama. I went to school at Auburn, so TBS was a thing I knew well.
I think so.
Yep. And I have a brother, and my mother passed away in Atlanta, and my brother lives in Atlanta. So it's not a place I don't know. And it's just it's interesting to grow up in the South and live elsewhere, because it really is kind of a different culture.
It definitely is. I think one of the talking heads on CNN said last night as a side comment, or it may have been one of the historians they're having on talking about the trial going on in a certain former president who may be the next. Well, anyway, I didn't say any of that because whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. Half my family's ostracized me. Okay, so do me a favor before we run out of time. I really want you to describe this book, Secrets of the Real Black Lodge, and how you and Olaf came to write it, and what was it written for. It's an interesting book.
Well, I had always seen Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts as the first of a trilogy. And after that came out, a long time ago, the first edition of it, from Illuminate Press, a lot of weird stuff happened, but I think the weirdest thing was the lectures I got from the head of the then and now head of the OTO, who said, you shouldn't be writing about UFOs. You should be writing about the occult. And if you stop writing about UFOs, basically he offered me the keys to the kingdom. And to prove it, he arranged for another one of my books to be published in Sweden, the story of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light.
Yeah.
I mean, it's now out in a Celestial Lodge of Sirius edition because Olaf thinks everything I write is solid gold. And who am I? Who am I to dispute that?
Olaf is a great guy. We really like him. And I think he's been a good friend to you.
A very good friend, a lifesaver, as I often say. Now, when it came around to doing the second book, it was already ready because Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals of the Men in Black were written pretty much at the same time. They both had an interview in the back, and that was, it was, you could see that as one book. In fact, now it's available as the complete Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts, which is kind of a lie at the moment because it took me 10 years and becoming disillusioned with the OTO and therefore not caring what head Poobah was saying about that to publish the second book. I don't even remember who published it. It wasn't.
I have the complete. I lost my Men in Black one, so I bought the complete book. And the thing that poked me into buying it was your appearance and part in Hellier. It reminded me who you were, and so I went out and got everything and started reading it all again.
Yeah, I suppose I should be giving a rake off to the Newkirks because that gave Secret Cipher, which deserved it, a second lease on life. I mean,
it's an amazing book, and as a mathematician, I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, I've had people that I deeply respect tell me, well, I read that in college and it changed my life. That's almost a direct quote. And because Illuminate was a small press, I mean, they were a legitimate press, despite what you may hear on Wikipedia, but they paid royalties on time. They gave an advance. They did the traditional things that traditional publishers do. But after they published my book, one by one, the people that made Illuminate died young and sometimes under very mysterious circumstances, including the publisher, Ron Bonds. And that was the end of Illuminate Press. So when the second book came out, I don't remember who I took it to. Tried to sell Beckley on it. And he said, well, I'll publish it, but I won't pay you for it. I'll give you 100 copies. I said, I'm not in the, the distribution business. So feel free to reprint anything that's in print of mine. But I tried that once, and I have no head for editing, no head for proofreading, and certainly no head for distribution. I really am relying on publishers for that. So the second book came out, and I always intended for it to be a trilogy. The third book was going to be on the secret chiefs of the Third Order, which is an equally not discussed almost equally not discussed topic in contemporary occultism, but which is crucial to understanding things like how sacred books are written, especially in the last 2 centuries, and so forth. Oh, thank you, Maureen. That is really, really nice of you. So I was, as I always do, I was writing it in my head long before it was committed to paper. And Olaf and I were talking about how the conspiracy movement, can you all see my hands?
Oh, yeah.
That's quotes, not you. I know you can see it, but it's not dark in here. It's that I don't have a light in this part of the room. And last time I tried something like taking a lamp from way over there, over here, the lamp got caught in my ceiling fan. And now there's a big hole in my lamp. So,
oh no, that's not
no. Getting a lamp is on. Buy my books, and I'll buy a lamp. And I just realized I don't have my glasses. Okay.
Well, you're fine, but you're fine without them. Okay, so tell us about the third book.
By the time I got around to talking to Olaf, my publisher, about doing a third book, and had written, a few pieces for it, we were talking about how the conspiracy movement, quote unquote, had become basically crypto-fascist in the last 20 years. I mean, that's always been an element. And I didn't feel as bad about that as Olaf did, because Olaf, I mean, when I first encountered him, he was going to, he made me an offer to republish Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals under one cover, which is the edition you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure, go ahead. And I thought, I hope this guy is, wealthy, because I don't think he'll sell 2 copies of it. It's an old book now. Both of them, are vintage. Well, I was totally wrong and he was totally right. Along came Hellier, and I knew Greg slightly he was a Facebook friend, but then I have 5,000 Facebook friends, which is the limit you're allowed. So I can't say that I really knew these people, but they were almost rhapsodic about my work. And of course, interviewed me in the second season. And who knows what will be upcoming.
I hope. I hope.
You don't have to hope. It's coming.
That's great.
I have been sitting on that, but they have mentioned Hellier 3. So I feel like now, I can say, well, it's coming probably this year. And I think you will be very happy with it. And not just you as in Lala will be happy with it. Won't you, Lala? Yeah, and I think your audience will be very happy with it.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
point is, when
I
Hellier,
really love Hellier.
when Hellier 2 came out, the second coming of Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals occurred. And I'm sure it did a lot for, I used to say, and it doesn't sound right, but I'll say it anyway. I used to say I was almost obscure, but now I'm almost famous because it sold like hotcakes in that edition. And in turn, Olive, instead of being the guy who was publishing a dead duck, but I was perfectly willing, to let him have it. And um, he put back in print every book that I had that was out of print, which was a real relief to me, for not for the obvious reason. When a book goes out of print, and if it has a following, the minute it goes out of print, first of all, I don't get any royalties on any resales or secondary market or anything. Right. But on top of that, the price starts going up with rarity. As the years go by, the book I did on the Rite of Memphis and Mitzrayim, which I think
it's out of print.
I know. I know. Olive and I have been discussing why. We don't know. He had it in print, but the point is, for maybe 10 years, it was out of print. And the price kept going up 2 digits, 3 digits, and conceivably on eBay or whatever, it was up to 4 digits. And that's just not right. It's not fair. If I had my way, there would be a Kindle edition of every one of my books, or, so that you would have the option of spending less money. But the only one currently in print is Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed, which is in Kindle, and for people like me that just cannot read on a screen for any length of time. Hold on,
there it is.
There it is. It's the longest book we've had anything to do with. Anyway, if I had it to do over again, I can tell where it's Olive writing and where it's me writing, and other people have mentioned that too. But so we didn't integrate what we were writing. It was this section. We talked back and forth, but we each had our specialization. And mine, of course, is ufology and occultism. And I don't know what you would call Olive's, but he has very broad expertise in other areas, and both of those are well covered in the book. What we were discussing was, we can't deal with the secret chiefs without humoring the people that are, how shall I put it, persuaded that everything QAnon says is true.
Right.
Because I have reason to believe that QAnon is actually funded by the Black Lodge. And the book will explain what the Black Lodge is, but basically, if you think of the secret chiefs of the Third Order as ascended masters to borrow a term from the Theosophists, then think of the Black Lodge as those ascended masters who are jealous of their position and who have a great deal of capital and who basically want to crush or kill anyone in the material world, so to speak, that has higher aspirations. And I think they've pretty well completely taken over what is generally referred to as the conspiracy movement. So I thought, well, if Olive is willing, I told him the whole story of Ron Bonds and Illuminate Press said, if he's willing, let's go for it. And we have. And if you haven't read that book, it's fine to read it as a standalone. I mean, it explains itself pretty well, I think. But it's a cautionary book and is best read by reading Complete Secret Cipher and then reading the Black Lodge book. But again, if you're not a reader per se, at least leaf through the Black Lodge book, because everyone needs to know about that. It's an anti-conspiracy theory book.
So the thing that really drew me back to you and the work in Hellier was every time Greg, Dana, and the whole crew put something that they were working on into the secret cipher, synchronicities abounded all over. And that whole show is about one synchronicity after another, changing them, taking them off their original path and sending them on a different that was actually more relevant to what they actually needed.
Absolutely. And having said they're going to do a third season or doing it or whatever, it takes a long, their production values are superb.
Yes.
And
Carl Popper's amazing.
So if, if they've done whatever they've done for the whole season, it may be, another 6 months or more. And I'm just guessing there to polish it because they have dynamite, should be Emmy winning at minimum, production crew.
Yeah.
And it carries on. And the key is not to be goal oriented in the sense of you may have questions that you want answered, but the synchronicities are, in my opinion, guided by the secret chiefs.
Yeah.
And interfered with by the Black Lodge. And
Right.
if you follow the synchronicities and make provisional conclusions based on your latest until the next comes along, you are, as they say in mystical circles, on the path. And the Newkirks and company are the hope for the future of the occult, UFO, ghost hunting, etc., field researcher community. And I'm damn glad to see them.
Yeah, they're a breath of fresh air. So, I mean, Lala and I, since we first crossed paths through the passing away of my mother and her reading of my mother for me, it was one synchronicity after another, always taking us off the intended path, but onto the path we needed to be on to have us where we are today. It's pretty amazing. And of course, I am a huge fan of Carl Jung and Pauly. And Pauly was his physicist buddy who helped him work out his thinking about synchronicities. And of course, I have all of Jung's books. So it was kind of all this stuff put into a blender, blended up, and made us what we are, along with her unbelievable abilities. But synchronicities abound.
Yeah, well, with the Hellier crew, I think they also have a person who has very considerable, dare I say, mediumistic talents. And that isn't the center of their work, but it is one of the guideposts, the ongoing guideposts. And that would be Dana Newkirk, who
Yes.
I'm a big fan of.
Yes, she and the guy who, along with her and Greg, that did the headphones with the noise search through frequencies, and they got all of these interesting things, and including things that they heard with their mind or perceived in the noise that were not actually on the audio tapes.
That's the key to that, the Estes method. If you sort of do a blank to your brain,
Yeah.
you get entrained with something higher than the brain. CF, the comments we were making earlier, the damping mechanism pretty well goes out of existence for the time being, and the real you emerges. And the real you is, what was it Aldous Huxley said? Or maybe it was William Blake, quoted by Aldous Huxley. If the doors of perception are cleansed, you will see the universe as it really is, infinite. And of course, within the infinite, you have what we don't have access to on a day-to-day basis because we're still, running away from the predators and running towards the prey. And
well, I mean, you can look, just people looking at the news and what are the headlines on all U.S. news. All it is about is the predators. And then you have two different groups that kind of dominate the conversation, and each one of them thinks the other is the predator. I mean, it's an ugly time. But so
that's why the book was written, the Black Lodge book.
Thank you, Maureen, for pointing that out. The Newkirks do have a museum, and their traveling museum that goes to conferences. It's worth visiting.
Absolutely. And I believe they're going on tour in like September or something, a big tour with a lot of cities and so forth. So I don't need to toot their horn. They toot mine, and that's fine. But the fact is that they have a much larger audience than most of us who toil away in the caves of Kentucky. We won't go there today. We probably have already gone there, but we all know about that.
Oh, yeah. I like the caves of Kentucky. I spent a fair amount of time in Mammoth Cave System when I was much younger than I am now. Alan, we're about out of time, but I am going to complete my. I'm crying too. So because I wanted to talk to you longer, but I'm going to complete my reading of this book, and I would like for you to come back and continue the conversation because it's got really.
Okay, I'll come back.
Okay, it got really good here. It got really good here in the last piece, and all of the other stuff was interesting. June the 4th.
Is that a holiday?
No, actually, it's not. That's not July 4th. It's June 4th.
Send it to me in black and white because I'm old and forgetful. So I'd be glad to do it. I don't have anything scheduled.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got two fans here. Yeah. So that, and I love your books, and I am eternally grateful for Olav Phillips' existence because he reinvigorated you.
Yeah, you're right. I owe a debt of gratitude to him, and I don't forget it because, as I believe I've told you before, he actually saved my life a couple of years ago. So,
okay, audience, we're going to say goodnight to Alan, and we want to thank you all for coming. We will have him back. He got his computer working, and everything looks great. And we were a little rough in the first 15 minutes, but we went several minutes over. So we got the whole hour in, but we did not have enough time.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a multitasker. So when I was trying to fiddle my way so that you wouldn't be like that, to stay on subject was too much for my addled gray matter. But I think we talked about important things, but I think that definitely once I got the computer thing straightened out,
we'll work it out. But let's make it a 2-hour show. There's too much to cover with you not Dr.
2
Bilal.
hours.
Yes, you can handle it.
Okay. I get a bathroom break? I have this
Yes,
whole.
we'll give you one little 10-second. Yeah, I'm kidding. Yeah, she takes one whenever she wants one. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well,
Alan, thank you very much, and we really are appreciating it. And good night to everyone.
and happy Passover to those
Happy
amongst us.
Passover to everybody.